Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I have a young adult novel that I just finished off that was written about my local area by a fellow teacher. It is called Don't Ask Me Where I'm From by Jennifer De Leon. So let's go ahead and get into it. Essentially, the premise of this novel is it's focused on a teenager. I believe she's a sophomore. Her name is Liliana Cruz, and she lives in the inner city of Boston, where she is going to a regular inner city, not super well-to-do high school, when she randomly finds out at the start of her sophomore year that she has been accepted into the METCO program, which, if you don't know, Boston has a busing program where students from Boston can sign up to enlist in the METCO program. I don't remember offhand what it stands for, but what it does is it transports them out of the inner city into pretty prominent or successful suburban schools outside of the Boston area. And so she is given acceptance into a high school called Westburg High, which is the exact opposite of where she comes from. It is a mostly white, high socioeconomic high school that she is transferred to, which is worlds apart from the two-bedroom apartment that her twin brothers, her mother and her father all come from. Getting accepted into the METCO program totally catches Liliana off guard because she had no idea that her father in particular had enrolled her in the request to be in the program when she was much younger, and it has taken her until her sophomore year of high school to be accepted into another school, a new placement for her. Her parents, as part of her backstory, we learned that her parents are from Guatemala and they immigrated to the United States to provide a better life for her and her brothers. That was their goal, was to provide their children with a better life. And so she begins her journey of these two worlds in her mind. She has this Westburg world where she essentially has to change a bit of herself, she feels, to be able to conform to the community of that school. But then she also has her Jamaican Plain native roots, where she is from, where she has her family. She feels most comfortable there. And her two worlds really struggle because she's dealing with some issues at home. Her father goes missing, and so she has that struggle going on. She has the struggle of being, the daughter of immigrant parents, and the sense of her identity and how that jives with being quote unquote American. She also has the struggle where she wants to be honest and fit in and do the best she can at her new high school, but she feels that she can't be her true self because she is from a minority group. I thought the story was really interesting, especially because as a teacher in the outer Boston area, I thought that perspective was really interesting to hear, and to hear some of those struggles that I think are not unique to Liliana Cruz, the character. I think they are very much apparent in a lot of students who are enrolled at schools as teenagers where they are not a part of the majority culture. I think that's really interesting to hear about. I will say there were times where I felt like the narrative felt a little forced. Like, I thought the voice of Liliana Cruz was a little bit forced at times, where it sounded too much like the author was trying to sound like a teenage girl versus being very authentic. But I'm willing to let that pass because I thought the narrative overall was a really interesting arc. And again, it's local to me, and I don't get to read a lot of, and I haven't come across a lot of local stories where I really understand the area and the dynamic of what's being spoken about. So I really appreciated it. I thought it was a really interesting story. And I think this idea of, self-identity and standing in your own spotlight is really interesting. And I like the way that it developed in this story. So overall, while I wouldn't give this a 10 out of 10, everybody has to read this kind of endorsement, I do think it's really interesting, and I do think that it is a good perspective story. So I do recommend it. I'd say it's more like an 8 out of 10. It had a couple of flaws to it, but overall, I think the messaging and the storytelling is really interesting. So I did like it, and I am happy that I read it. As always, I appreciate you being here and spending some of your day with me. If you have read this book, or based on this premise, if you have other book recommendations, please drop them down below in the comments for me, and I will talk to you in my next video real soon.